Sweet goes to the line for now. Bailey hits it at speed along the ground. Needs bounce. He got it. He can make it talk. Archie out to Will Ashcroft. Shoots. It's another one. It is overwhelming. For his third. Hey Siri. Play John Denver. To Loman. Loman shoots. Got it. And Brisbane piling on the pain. Bailey trying to drag it out. Levi goals. He's got great genes. Hickel gives it to Bailey. Bailey looks goalward. He's got one for the thumb.
The Brisbane Lions Fancast is back for another week after a big win against Port Adelaide that was built off the back of a pretty electric 10-minute period in the first quarter. And, well, it didn't really... There was ebbs and flows, and it didn't really change from that 5-goal margin in the end. 1 second, we're 2 goals down. Next thing you know, we've put on 8 goals in the quarter of footy, and Zac Bailey had a game to absolutely remember, and we will obviously be chatting about his game, but the game at large. That's what we do each and every week, thanks to Hop On Brewery Tours and Crisp Communications. Don't forget to get your Brisbane Lions Fancast merch at brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. Use the code THANKYOU10, 10% off, and a huge thanks to the people that have bought a couple of shirts across the week. And another huge shout out as well to Matthew Powell, who recently discovered us on YouTube and has had some pretty nice things to say and has left comments on, backdated videos and everything. So a huge shout out to Matt for jumping on board as well. I was at the Gabba. I said to you I had probably a few too many beers. You watched this one from the couch. You didn't have many nice things to say about the commentary team.
No, I don't hate Corbin Middlemass. He's fine, but and also ordinarily now I understand people don't like Dermot Brereton. I think that the love of football can trump a lot of things, but he was not good. He was awful. The Derm on this night, he didn't have a good one. He had forgotten to take his meds or something like that because he was grumbly and annoying and almost unashamedly just cheering for Port Adelaide. So. That's all. But that's all I'll say about that. Yes. How was the Gabba?
It was good. I mean, you know the crowd and the goal songs. It was good to hear Country Roads a couple of times across the night. A bit of DJ Otzi as well. Lots of goal kickers, 12 or 13 different goal kickers, which was lovely to hear as well. A good team effort from everyone. The first 10 minutes... Port Adelaide came to play. They were getting the ball out of the middle a bit too easy for my liking, and they were able to transition play from D50 to inside 50 a little bit too easy as well. So that was a little bit of a worry. And as I said, I'm looking at the game. We're 2 goals down. And I'm thinking, Port Adelaide's on here, and we're just a little bit off. But then, as I said, next thing you know, I went to go get another round of beers and go to the toilet, and I missed 3 goals in that time. And I was
sucked in.
I was lucky enough to catch the last 4 of the first quarter. And then it did kind of stagnate a little bit. There was little fits and bursts here and there, and that's all it really took. Port Adelaide were good, and if it wasn't for, their unfortunate injuries that piled up quickly, it might have been a much closer game, I think.
Yeah, well, you take the unluck with the injuries with the absolute berserk luck of they're just like arrowed in laser outside 50. Some of their goal kicking was amazing, and some of it was, there were 3 that were like the ugliest kicks I've seen, and they just, the one, it might have been that fella that came from Collingwood in that like calamity trade that was like, it did I would say it was uglier than Cal Archie's in the grand final last year, where it went short side, curved back to go far side, and then curved back. I don't know how you do that. So good for them. And then Horn Francis followed it up with a helicopter from 50. And it's like, okay, cool. I would, for everyone who is like, our percentage sucks, I really want to see, I said it in the Discord, I want to see like an alternate reality percentage where teams haven't had a magnet with the ball in it behind the goals like all season. I just want to see what like a usual traditional goal kicking schematic would be and percentage, just to see where we'd be. Curiosity. But yeah, so the bye happened. That's good. Good for us, I guess. We managed to navigate the old post-bye lull, and then heading into sort of team changes. It was just Cal Archie that came in. I mean, Dizzy came in as a sub, which was fine, but a weird one.
Yeah.
We said that Will McLaughlin would be unlucky, and he was. But you don't not play Cal Archie. So, and I think there was definitely some questions raised at Gardner being the sub, but I think it was the case of the ball movement that we had against Geelong was kind of too good to not try again, and it didn't quite work out this time. But him being there allowed us a bit of flexibility to plonk him forward or plonk him back. I said if Lukosius had decided to learn how to be a footballer in his most recent injury, which he did, Dizzy could have come on and done that job. I think the matchups down back we got a little bit wrong, but that's
it was
just
a bit
me.
strange. Like there was a lot of chopping and changing. The first centre bounce, Dunkley went straight to Butters, and they had Bergman running with McCluggage, and that just didn't really seem to last long. Bergman on McCluggage was a little bit more consistent, but then anytime I look at a stoppage, it was, Neil and Butters were next to each other. There didn't really seem to be a huge run with or a cooling role that we really stuck with. So, and then down back, it looked like Harris started on Georgiades, and then Froggy had his go with him as well across the night. Georgiades ended up kicking 4 as it was. So, no, I still thought Harris had a pretty good game by and large.
Yeah, I think just it would have been nice to just see Harris go on Georgiades and have that as the matchup.
You got what you wanted, though. You had the balled off, Starcevic and Pal Pepper.
Yeah, no, I wanted that. And then the next time I looked, it was like Fletcher was with Pal Pepper. And I'm like, oh, no, he's going to die. And as it was, he didn't. They put Bergman to McCluggage in the first quarter, and Bergman got ripped to shreds. Absolutely to shreds. And then they swapped it to Drew after quarter time. And I think Willem Drew did a better job, but then it was always funny, almost like those ones where you're like, you have the intercept defender going off a player, not impacting the contest, and then McCluggage just like running out the front of the stoppage unmanned. And you're like, come on, Bergman. Like, you got to impact that contest there, buddy. So I think Port are a better team than they seem.
Their last month or so has been pretty good.
Yeah, like they've got a good midfield. So and Sweet's not a bad ruck as well. Obviously didn't get a chop out with Vicentini going down with an injury early.
And then Wine's taking second ruck duties. That was strange.
Yeah, well, I did hear from some Port fans that that's kind of more usual than
I know, but he's just come back off a fairly long injury layoff.
I don't know, man. An aside, did you see Ken Hinckley's like fake teeth?
I saw it after. Yeah, that was funny.
Oh, amazing. Because someone said, hey, like Ken Hinckley probably should have been a bit more positive after the game. What do you think of the comments? And I'm like, this is a guy that put fake teeth in and like looked deadpan in the camera. Like, this guy does not give a shit anymore. And I'm totally here for Ken Hinckley's like just having a laugh face.
Yeah. Larry Daviding his way out of the league.
Pretty much. So, Port are better than they seem. I think they're probably looking with half an eye towards next season, which is why like the Sam Pal-Pepper injury is probably more disappointing than it probably otherwise. I mean, they're always disappointing. But they'll take a lot out of that.
Yeah, and they should. I thought they were good. They were really good out of the middle, especially early on, and their transition was pretty good. Our defensive pressure was probably not as good as it could have been, and even Fags addressed it. He addressed it after the GWS game and saw the low tackle count and said, yeah, but the game wasn't really conducive to high tackle numbers, as you said. This one was, and the tackle count was higher than the GWS game, but he was pretty bloody disappointed with it. You could tell. So, You'd have to imagine that's going to be something that we work on over the next couple of days because before you know it, we've got another game of footy on Thursday night. So it's going to come around real quick. And the 5-day breaks haven't been good to us this year.
Yeah. How many?
The lead up to Easter Thursday, and we got done. I think maybe Melbourne was a 5-day break as well. The game against the D's, I think that was a 5-day break, and maybe Adelaide as well. I just know every time we've had one this year, it's been bad. So
I might be remiss, but I think we might only have had the one, which was the Easter Thursday. But whatever. We should beat Carlton. So
we should, and they're going to be front and center of the every footy show this week in the lead up as well. So another week of pressure building on that club. So that's something to look forward to. But let's have a chat about this game that we've just gone through. Oscar McInerney, a notable absentee from both the seniors and the reserves. He was named as emergency, and Fague said, look, he's not going to play VFL because there's a 5-day break and we want him fresh for that. So I don't know. There's just something about this whole situation I'm not enjoying, that he's right, but he's not right. He's named, but not named. And then he's playing twos. Now he's not playing twos. Must be said, 40 is playing really good footy. So, I mean, there's no need to rush him back in. If 40 was stinking it up, then we'd all be sitting here going, we've got to get Oscar back into the fold. But he's been playing really good footy. But it is just strange. It's very, very strange. And, I am genuinely worried that we might be seeing Oscar retire at the end of this year if this back issue is what it is. Years of lugging around Christmas trees and then going into the most physical position in an AFL field. And now he just can't get on the park. So it's a little bit concerning, I think.
How would you feel if he just got named against Carlton on Thursday night?
It would make sense coming up against TDK and potentially Pitternet. They played both of them against the Pies. I don't know if they'll do that again because it didn't work for him. So, but as we know, TDK is a fantastic player. That's why he's going to get offered all sorts of stupid money from the Saints. But he hasn't been playing like that recently. He's completely checked out of Carlton, it looks like. So, he's not alone there.
Basically have him, Ken Hinkley, Harley Reid, all in a bit of a party together of just not caring. No, I don't think we'll play both Fort and Oscar.
No, I don't think so.
I think that's not. I think that was part of the reason why Sam Day got subbed out as well, because quick turnaround and keep him fresh.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised that Sam Day got subbed because I probably would have pulled the trigger on Logan. He ended up kicking a goal, but he was fairly anonymous across the night, I thought.
He had an unlucky game.
Yeah.
He should have had two free kicks early that were not given. Like, one was just he got his absolute arms karate chopped. It should have been a mark anyway. Like, he was having basically one of those games. And I think for a player like him, you shouldn't take him off in a game like that, because you need to kind of instill that you can still impact a game in a small patch of time. So leave you out there, do what you can when you can. And he kicked a goal. And there's a beautiful left foot kick to Lockie Neal, maybe.
Yep.
So there were still glimpses of like really good, really classy play by him. So I'm okay with having the big number 14, old man 14 being subbed out. So fine with me. But
there was a great article, I don't know if you saw it on the AFL website, from Mike Whiting about Sam Day and his impact on our team and our forward line. Definitely worth a read for anyone that's a Lions fan that hasn't had the chance to read that one. Really good.
Yeah, the spike in player ratings for Eric and for Logan is there. But yeah, I mean, it started pretty cagey. They kicked too early. Willie Rioli has to be one of the most skilled players. Like, he just goes at his own pace, does not give a single shit, and it's just like, I will never miskick a ball ever.
Yeah.
So fair play to him. bit of a throwback. Love it. So, yeah. Then we had the first dose of Country Road that was immediately followed up by a Sam Pepper goal from
Yes.
50, which there was an element of kind of I was just head in my hands for that one. I'm like, oh, maybe if the team weren't singing along, they wouldn't have coughed up that goal. So
maybe, but
I
think that was.
For anyone who's listening that doesn't see the video, you have to understand that I have a very, very, what would you say, Brooksy?
Tongue firmly in cheek with that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm really playing into it. So, yeah. But good to see Charlie impact the game earlier. Head away, no set shots. Although he did kick 2. So if he'd kicked this one and maybe missed it, then would he have kicked 3? Who knows? So good for him.
Yeah, it was great. And obviously Bailey, who had an absolute blinder, you know, got a lucky bounce over Alir. You know, they got done in their back line. You know, obviously Vicentini went off and then not too long afterwards, Radaglia. And then Alir looked pretty proppy as well. And he had a huge amount of tape around his knee to begin with, but he was looking proppy at times. So they were left wanting down back a little bit. And then obviously the pretty devastating injury to Pepper as well. That happened just pretty close to the bench, you know, just where I sit. And he knew straight away what had happened, and he was devastated. It was pretty hard to watch. I mean, I'm not the biggest Sam Pepper fan, but I definitely felt for him in that moment.
You'd have him in your team though. Like, he's that terrifying that you're like, well, you'd rather him be yours than elsewhere. I don't know what's with him turning into like every time he plays us seemingly, where he just doesn't matter how shit Port are, he'll kick goals and he'll do well. So, yeah, shame for him. I want to know how it was sitting in that sort of front pocket that had like 7 goals kicked from the same piece of grass. Like, there were, I think, 4 in a row and then 1 later. And then I think Kyle Lohman had 1 in the third quarter. Just a word on that Zac Bailey bounce. Everybody knows the second bounce kicks up.
Yeah.
Everyone knows. So, was it intentional? Probably not, but it also was done with like this should do this, so let's hope it might.
It definitely got some elevation. I don't know if you saw, just a quick sidebar here, the Essendon Gold Coast game where Mac Andrew got absolutely bamboozled by a dodgy bounce, because he was in like basically perfect position to intercept that, and that just Shane Warne, Mick Gadding bowled him around the legs straight through. All you can do is laugh in that situation.
I didn't see that. I saw Nate Caddy getting cleaned up by an umpire or vice versa, and just had a bit of a laugh to myself. But was it a bit like that Adam Treloar one last year that just
it was going straight towards him, and then it just veered to the right and went around his legs. And you could just see the look on his face as soon as it happened. He had to smile and put his head down and go, I can't believe that's just happened. How embarrassing.
So it was a ball of the century style one.
Yeah. It was pretty funny.
It was nice. I mean, it's a bit different now looking at the score worm on the iPad, quite large, but on the phone in that first quarter, it was vertical.
Yeah.
For that patch of time. It was amazing. I loved that. Just the quick fire goals. 2 to Bailey, McCluggage, stand and deliver, Ashcroft. Who else? Calamachi.
Charlie at the end, and then Eric to finish off the quarter.
You can't ask for much more, can you?
No, you really couldn't. It was I'm not going to say it was a perfect quarter, but it certainly was a blistering 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes at the end of it.
Do you think there's a club that looks at that 15-minute patch and goes, that's fine? Like opposition club? Or are they like, oh my goodness me?
No, I think at this stage, you'd look at that and go, yeah, we know Brisbane can pile on goals and pile them on quickly. Like that's that's been one of our sort of hallmarks. It was good to get our forward half game going again over the last couple of weeks. And yeah, like I said, there were definitely moments of pretty disappointing footy, but there were equally, 5, 10, 15-minute periods across the game that were just as exciting. And, once we got that buffer zone of 5 goals at quarter time, it was never really threatened. They got within 3 goals here and there, but it was never really likely.
What did you make of Dunkley kind of coming out of the goal square a bit more than we're used to seeing?
I didn't mind it because I thought it allowed Cam Rayner to have a pretty good game further up the ground. It felt like those two had sort of swapped roles a little bit, and I thought Cam Rayner, while not being as instrumental as he has been over the last month or so, I thought he had a pretty good game. He's had a pretty good sort of 4 or 5 week period. But yeah, I like Dunkley's. I mean, his overhead marking ability, contested overhead marking ability for a midfielder is like, I can't think of too many other midfielders in the competition that have that going for them.
No, not too many. Your mate Dawson, but
yeah.
I mean, I think to me, there's an element of it where it almost seemed like the game was, because that seemed to happen more so in the second and third quarter than the first, although it probably did happen in the first quarter, but it seemed like a little bit of and allowing a different centre bounce contingent, almost looking at an evolution without Dunkley in there. I still obviously think we're best when Dunkley is in there. But yeah, it was interesting. Paid dividends, but at the same time, was there lack of pressure down to that in the second and third quarter? Possibly.
Yeah, potentially.
Sliding doors, my friend.
All right. Look, is there any other particular players or moments or bits and pieces about this game you want to have a chat about before we get into some votes?
I mean, well, we've only talked about the first quarter. So
yeah. I don't know.
I know that. I mean, your drunken blur of the game might read a little bit different to mine.
Yeah, very possibly.
I mean, there were some good moments. Lockie Neal kicking a goal is always good. Kyle Lohmans was oddly similar to that grand final one where he's running away, albeit just on the opposite side. We had Joe Richards and Horn Francis absolutely butcher the ball in for goals. Logan chipped in. I really liked Levi's goal. It was really good goal sense. Yeah. And I reckon it was a lot more difficult than it seems. Judging the ball, going over your head, taking it and kicking it in one action was really, really impressive. And then, Zac Bailey. When it got to the end and we were on 119 points, obviously not a great number for Port Adelaide. And then Charlie Cameron kicking it behind at the end, making it a very nice number for Lions fans. So that 120, the exact same scoreline as the grand final. So made for good reading.
Certainly did. It certainly did. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about probably a few players in our votes, and I don't know how similar ours will be across the game here. But there was a moment in the last where I think Kai, he was coming in from 50, and you'd think every day of the week he takes that shot, decided to sort of half pass it off, ended up missing the target. I think it dribbled out of bounds. I thought he probably could have taken a shot in that moment. But yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing that anyone's ever done. Froggy is probably... He's had a couple of quietish months, I would say, actually. He's probably pushing sort of 6-8 weeks where he's been pretty quiet and serviceable without being, I guess, as reliable and consistent as we're used to him being.
I think the thing is that our defensive profile is still pretty good. So if you're a part of that, it does seem a little bit weird that our defensive profile has been quite as good as it is, given that we've kind of conceded quite heavy scores a lot.
Yeah.
So, I don't... Yeah, in a perfect world, Froggy wouldn't be playing on Georgiades. And I just think sometimes when you're letting guys go, and going, okay, well, Lukosius, you can take shots from outside 50 on the boundary line. That's where you would want them to be taking their shots from, not directly in front. And same with Georgiades, is taking snaps around the corner, which is, albeit a skill that he's pretty good at. You would still rather that than dead in front. So whether they're funneling them into those areas and our opponents just seem to kick everything, it's sort of as much as you can really ask, because it's not as if the intercept game and the Froggy's use of the ball is really good. I don't think it's any kind of alarm for me.
No. I don't know. It's strange because, I love Froggy and his form hasn't like dramatically dropped or anything. But I guess with Tom Doedee sort of lurking in the shadows, and he didn't play VFL either, I think he was just getting extra management with that concussion, and probably in the back of Fags' mind is the 5-day turnaround if we needed him for whatever reason. The VFL team that we put out was vastly different. They're like very few senior players on that list. So I don't know if there's going to be a huge amount of changes for this game on Thursday night, but I guess we'll wait and see. But yeah, I think with Tom Doedee thereabouts, and Froggy sort of towing the line with his form, I wouldn't be surprised if that change doesn't happen in the next 4-6 weeks.
Yeah, it really depends on what we want to be doing with our defensive. What word am I looking for? Defensive group.
Yeah.
Because the last two games we have gone smaller, and I said it when we did it against Geelong that probably if Ollie Henry plays that whole game, it probably doesn't quite work the same way. And I think with Vicentini going out early, it enabled us to do that, because we had, you had your Shannon Neal being your Georgiades, and then your kind of Roma being Lukosius, Jeremy Cameron style. So it did work in terms of the matchups. It's just that the players weren't quite as nice. They didn't quite win their matchups, because I think you had Harris on Lukosius and Frog on Georgiades, and to me, I just would swap them. So yeah, the matchups I didn't think, as I said, I didn't think they got quite right, but they did what they thought would be the best, and we won the game. So ultimately, it doesn't really matter. But if you throw in another tall, or if Vicentini doesn't, like, who would have played on? How would they have restructured that if Vicentini's there the whole time?
Yeah.
Does then Starcevic play on Lukosius, and then you've got a bit of a size mismanagement, and then Pal Pepper, bigger body. It's a bit, to me, they needed another taller defender back there, and whether that is Dizzy going back or whether that is Tom Doedee coming in, I think it's only a matter of time before we see the third person down there.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that means that one of the halfbacks has to be shuffled around. So someone will be missing out further up the ground, because I think the one you pull out is you probably put Fletcher up onto the wing, and then someone else goes. And that's the blessing and the curse of having a good list and having players that can contribute. So it's a shame, but it's footy.
It is. It really is. All right. Well,
sorry, it's all a bit sad there, isn't it?
No, it makes sense, and I kickstarted that conversation with Froggy and Doedee. So,
but I don't think. Sorry, just to go back to that initial thing, I don't think you should be dropping Frog for an unknown when I don't think he's giving you a negative.
No, I don't think it's negative, but it's certainly not as positive as it has been either.
His willingness to take the ball down the corridor is really important, though. So there are other elements that I think he does that you wouldn't initially expect. Yeah, I don't think you'd expect Gardner to do that as well as Froggy, and I don't know that you would expect Tom Doedee to do that, because I don't friggin' know what kind of player he actually is. Do you want to do some votes?
Yeah, let's do some votes. Thanks to hoponbrewtours.com.au. Book yourself a half for a full day tour. Go.
Three votes go to 4x gold for you, or what?
No, not this week.
Not this week, you say. Well, I'm going to make you go first, because you made me go first this week, so sucked in.
All right. 1 to Darcy Fort, 2 to Hugh McCluggage, and 3 to Zachary Bailey.
That's pretty good. Just trying to find who gets my 1.
There's definitely a few options.
Yeah. Yeah, let's give Neil 1 vote because I don't give him votes as much as I probably should, and we give Huey 2 and Zac Bailey 3.
Fair enough. Yeah, I thought Neil was pretty good.
It was one of those games with Neil where you go, hey, if you're going to not put any work into him, just have fun. Like he'll get 29 to goal.
I really am enjoying the fact that we're not, it's not a very Neil heavy year. It's a good sign that as a group, especially midfield group and the team at large, we're just sort of maturing beyond that. It wasn't too long ago. If you shut out Lockie Neal, then you're halfway to beating Brisbane Lions in a game of footy. So, not the case anymore, which is really, really good.
What do you think of Will Ashcroft's wrestling belt celebration? Bit of Harlem Heat.
Yeah, I didn't understand it when he did it, but he's enjoying
I'll send you a video
Okay.
that I can't really talk about here, but it's funny.
Okay, sure. He's certainly enjoying a good couple of weeks in front of goal, which has been really good.
Yes, and good to see. I like when both the. It's like Ashcroft easily a 1 vote, slightly less disposal, but he's a good player.
Certainly is. Certainly is.
Shit show. This is Captain Obvious over here. Jared Berry just plugs away. He cops a lot of physical punishment, that guy.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Starcevic, after hamming him up last week by saying he had probably the best minutes to performance ratio of anyone, he didn't have a great game.
It wasn't awful, but yeah, it certainly wasn't up to the heights of his first couple back.
No, I'm like, well, his kicking out is really good, and it was just like, oh man, really put the moz on him. So sorry, Starcevic. But that's all right. So they won. Wilmot was good. His first touch made the camera pan up into the sky again, as always. So that's always one we look out for. And I think you're right. Cam Rayner, I had no idea he got 22 touches, which is on the higher end for him. But watching some of the highlights, it was definitely kind of involved. Maybe they wanted him there to be a bit more kind of physical with Butters and, Drew and stuff all around Wines, some bigger bodies, which is not to say that our other blokes aren't strong, but it's good to have the cannon running around in there, so it's good.
Yeah, definitely. Like Horn Francis, you chuck him in there as well. They're a pretty strong midfield unit, and I don't think, I'm certainly not going to forget, and I don't think the team is going to forget how they beat the shit out of us round 1 2023. Absolutely. So I don't think they're going to want to let that happen again.
I won't forget that. That was my podcasting debut. Was it? Nah, yeah, it was. You did that hapless preseason one.
All right, quick look at the twos who went down to Southport at Brighton Homes Arena earlier that morning. As I said, we wheeled out a team that had very few senior players. Gallup was withdrawn, no Duday. Oscar McInerney didn't play. I think there was a couple of others as well. So, Jimmy Tunstall had a good game, 34 touches, 2 goals, 7 clearances. He was best on for us. Beacon, again, has been really good. Dev Rob, fine. Another 24 touches, 8 tackles. And Brucey was pretty good as well. Brandon Ryan did the ruck work, and then he got injured. Other than that, Connor McKenna, he kicked 2 goals, but he had a bit of a mare of a game, to be perfectly honest. Other than that, you're looking at, Will McLaughlin had a really quiet game by his standards. We're always going to be up against it with Southport. They're a very good team, and I thought, considering the list we rolled out, and it did blow out to about 50 odd points in the third quarter, we fought back pretty hard. So 5 goals in the end is probably not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, the way that you were describing it, I was expecting an obituary, but to see us nearly hit 100, good to see Aberley just get some consistent football as well, I suppose, with the adults.
Yeah, well, I mean, Abiley's been on the list the VFL list for a while, so I'm hoping he might get a Bruce Reville style thing down the line, just hanging around long enough to get a rookie contract or something.
Hold on, isn't he the guy that...
No, that's Annabelle.
Oh, no, I've got... Well, let's not worry about that then. Wiley Buzzer played against one of his old clubs. So,
yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Cool. Well, it's good to know that I can tell the difference between names beginning with A.
Monstered in the ruck by former Gold Coast Suns ruckman Braden Crosley, who was a genuine chance to get picked up in the mid-season draft, especially by the man with the chopper mo, by like Essendon, who were looking for it. He ended up with 50 hitouts, and the next closest was Brandon Ryan was 16. So he absolutely had a field day in the ruck. And if we are looking, because we're clearly looking at ruckman, apparently we've offered Sam Draper the best deal so far, and obviously Riley O'Brien is a name we've looked at. I wonder if it's worth looking at someone like a Braden Crossley, or that fella from Williamstown.
Well, I don't know the guy from Williamstown. I did remember, because Southport made the VFL Grand Final.
A couple of years ago, yeah.
I think it was last year. They played Werribee.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he's kind of got a bit of Shane Mumford about him, Crosley. He's kind of big ball fella. I don't know how well he'd do covering the ground in the AFL. That would be my only thing that I would be a little bit wary of. Are you picking him over Fort? I wouldn't, which is why we have Fort and not him. So,
yeah, Fort's also 32 though.
How old is Crosley? Because he looks about 80.
I know he looks about it, but I don't think he is. He's 25.
Yeah. Okay, that is a very old 25. That makes me feel ancient. Because he's a bald fella, right? And I'm not saying that just because you're bald, but it does
Josh
give
Walker
off a
was
certain...
bald at 21.
Yeah, I know. He was bald and then he wasn't bald. It was one of the great recovery stories. No, I don't know. I think we should be looking for someone established at AFL level, which I think of the two you mentioned, Draper's probably the one.
Yeah.
Riley O'Brien's a bit awkward, and I think Draper kind of sets you up for a larger amount of time. So I did want to make note because my brother, whose name starts with A, so I could call him Abiley or Annabelle or whatever, Andrew.
Sure.
He said he looked up a video of Draper talking and was like, he sounds pretty normal. And I was like, yeah, okay. So the context around that was that I didn't like the way they threw like Beveridge under the bus with like players are going to leave.
Yeah.
I didn't like, that's the thing I didn't like. Not that he sounds weird, more just that like spilling the tea, as the kids say, on another club's coaching with the player culture to me is a bit like, as the kids say, out of pocket, which that expression doesn't work. So
who have you been
let's not
hanging
get
out
on
with this week?
Well, you said out of pocket the other week, so and I had to bite my tongue. So we all know that I'm a fan of the extra arrows in the quiver, not bows on a string. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. If anyone wants to know more of correct this sort of shit, let me know.
Tune into your other podcast.
Grammar with this idiot, featuring a calculator.
All right, changes. Are you making any changes for this week? This game is going to be coming up pretty quickly. Thursday night, Carlton at Marvel.
No, because funnily enough, they don't have any other key forwards, so you can still play the one and get away with it.
My guess is that Oscar's coming in because they, made a point of holding him back from the VFL and mentioning the 5-day break, but I'm also fully expecting for that team list to come out on Wednesday and him not be part of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, Oscar for Fort would be the only one that I think would be there. Gardner as a sub again.
Yeah, you think? I mean,
because people had a problem with it, and I understand that they had a problem with it from the context of the North Melbourne game.
Yeah.
Because we had Fort and Oscar and Darcy. And
it was a tall team.
So it was very one-paced. So I don't mind because it gives you some flexibility. And we do have it does mean that we do. It's not as if we're taking the same amount of tolls with him. We've got another runner on the field. So we're not like to put him on either forward or back is a return to a more status quo thing rather than having Payne there. Like if Payne's there, we don't have Darcy as the sub.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. We have another runner. But because we don't have him, we can afford to have a tall because we've got the runners on the field. So I don't mind it, and it makes perfect sense to me.
It does, but then, if something happens like it did in the North game where Jared Berry gets knocked out and then you really are looking tall and a bit sort of one-paced.
Yeah, but the thing is, because we have other runners, that's where you swap Fletcher to a wing and you put Darcy on down back. So it's different. It would be that example only works if we've already got Payne and Leicester and Fort, and because I think Fort was in for Day, so we've still got the same number of talls. So I think it's okay. I'll disagree with you.
Sure. I can't foresee any other changes. Gallup was out with personal stuff, so depends what's going on in his life, but I can't imagine he'd be coming in. Duday with the management of the concussion, probably not likely until he puts together a good month of VFL and can stay injury-free. It looks like this week we might see Kitty Coleman and Henry Smith potentially back in the VFL. Those injury timelines are sort of either this week or next week, so it'd be good to see them back in some sort of form, whether that's VFL or AFL.
You did a bit of Mitch Cleary news breaking with Kadeen Coleman a few weeks ago. So have you heard any more from your little birdies?
No. So he was listed as the 1 to 2 weeks, but he was listed as 1 to 2 weeks, 2 weeks in a row. So for both him and Henry Smith. So I haven't heard anything. So hopefully he'll be good to go. It was
more down to the part of the leg, right? They said quad, but you were adamant it was swelling.
Yeah, it was a bit of swelling around the knee, which I guess could have been around the quad area as well. So it wasn't exactly a complete lie or anything.
I mean, are we really going by technically correct?
Yeah, we might be.
The best kind of correct.
Well, the VFL's playing down in Melbourne as well on the Friday at midday. So I'm sure the whole contingent will fly down and they'll make the call. I wonder if we'll fly down on the Wednesday or the Thursday morning, or Wednesday probably get a night's sleep there.
I don't think that they need to do the day early thing.
Yeah,
to be honest, I could beat Carlton at the moment.
Yeah, they're going through it, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
I mean, the thing is they're going through it, but do they have to relentlessly be going through it all of the time forever?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, fair enough. Well,
ever since they John Elliott and the brown paper bags, they have been going through it and going through coaches like they're going out of fashion. So they'll probably go through another one at the end of this year.
Excellent. So we've got that to look forward to. Yeah, it's hard to really see where the threats therein lie, George Hewitt.
Yeah, well, he has historically done a pretty strong role on Neil. Whether that's going to be the case again, he ran with.
But he's now gone beyond being a simple tagger, and he now thinks he's the key. So he doesn't have the humility to tag now.
Yeah, and they've had Chincotta play that role as well, but I feel like he may have got injured or something. I'm not too sure. I know Hewitt ran with Dacos on Friday.
Yeah, I just, just beat him, smack him. It's fine.
I hope so.
What is your take on the fixturing for this round just gone? Because I had no idea that West Coast were playing GWS at virtually the same time as Carlton and Collingwood, and
dumb.
I feel cheated because I probably would rather have watched West Coast than GWS, to be honest.
Well, you could have. It started an hour later, so you could have.
But I didn't know that it was on. Like,
yeah,
who
the
has
doubleheader
two
Friday, and then 2 games at the same time on Saturday night as well. Bit silly. You could have had an extra game on the Saturday during the day, or an extra game today.
And there's an overlap today as well.
Yeah, it's a small one,
but it's still there. Like, why have they overlapped?
I know.
2, 3.
It's dumb.
Like, that's an inordinate amount of games that you've had some overlap or gone head to head. Like, yeah, there's some weird stuff going on. Any thoughts on the? Sorry, go on.
The top 9 versus the bottom 9 this week as well. So, I really thought there would have been a few more upsets at this stage.
Did you tip Freo or Sydney?
I did tip Freo.
Well, they're coming back. It's only a kick in it now.
Yeah.
You smug bastard.
No, I mean, I think at the start of the day, I told myself, oh, you should probably change that tip to Sydney, and I didn't act on it. So, like, whatever. Freo's won 6 or 7 in a row now. Sydney's been playing good footy, so we'll wait and see how that unfolds.
Well, there's 6 minutes to go, and there's a kick.
Well, we'll look at that. Having said that, it's a good time to have a look at our tipping.
Right. Well, I think we've probably both got perfect round, right?
Well, so far there's still 2 games in play: Freo Sydney and Melbourne and Adelaide. So at this stage, I am shooting at 100%, but I'm probably going to drop this Freo one. I can't see Adelaide losing to Melbourne, but we'll see.
Margin, we did quite well.
Yeah, I missed by 2 points.
I missed by 3, so...
North looked good for 2.5 quarters, and then it just blew out to 50 points in the end. Yeah,
well, Larky got hurt a bit, and he was almost 6 goals for 6 kicks, 5 goals 1 or something like that. So
yeah.
Then they just... kind of with North Melbourne, really.
Yeah, LDU going down didn't hurt. But, like, the fact that they had 8 changes, in the lead up to this game, and then LDU going out, I thought they did remarkably well to stay with the Bulldogs for as long as they did, and then it did just sort of devolve.
And how good in all the lead up, not a mention of Wayne Carey.
No, he was there. He was in the...
He was there, but he was not highlit in the way that player of playing standard, player stature should have been because of all of his alternate garbage. So good.
All right, well, let's have a look to next round, round 18, Thursday night, Marvel Stadium, Brisbane Lions and Carlton. You have to do a margin.
Yeah, I hate doing margins. Lions by 59.
59, jeez.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Suns and Collingwood should be a good game at People's First Stadium, but Collingwood are just bulletproof at the moment.
Hold on. Wait a second. So you're not tipping Gold Coast?
No, I'm not tipping Gold Coast.
You're like the biggest Gold Coast. You've tipped Gold Coast more times than the Lions this year.
You know what? I probably have, but I'm not tipping them against Collingwood because... until they prove otherwise, I'm pretty much tipping Collingwood every week.
Yeah, okay, we'll see. Doggies and the Crows. Doggies.
Yeah, Marvel Stadium. If that was at Adelaide Oval, I might give the Crows a sniff, yeah.
Now, a bit of a genuine 50-50. Now, if this was at Cardinia...
I know, I'd tip the Giants.
What to do?
Yeah, I am going to go the Cats. Just because Sam Taylor's out and I think Whitfield will still be out.
Yeah, fair. Richmond and Essendon.
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
Nah, I'm going Essendon on that one.
So this is one here. This Fremantle Hawthorn one is the kind you go with this. If Fremantle don't win, you would tip them. But if they do win, I would be inclined to not tip them.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to wait for 5 minutes and then we'll find out. Fremantle for now. Provisional. Melbourne.
That's a tough one. I might actually go Hawthorn for that one. Melbourne and North Melbourne. North Melbourne's got this strange hold on Melbourne.
They did for a while, and they did at the beginning of this year, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's at the MCG, though.
Yeah, I think it's generally, I'm going to say always is.
How many people do you think get to that game? About 4,000?
It's not going to be a huge amount, is it?
No. Sydney and St Kitts and Nevis.
There's a couple of tough games this coming round.
Yeah, and you can also see like West Coast will beat Port Adelaide.
No.
I'm going Sydney because I just think they got better players.
Yeah, I think so as well. Although it looks like Papley's going to be missing. But Errol Goulden back in that team just makes such a huge difference.
He's like the oil that makes the engine run. It just completely changes a lot of this. All right, well, we'll go with that for now. This... the wheel. Right.
Oh, yes, the wheel.
Okay. Well, we're doing the wheel now, but cool. Now, who won out of Mel, Michael, and the Possum?
I think it was a split vote, but I think...
Bullshit. Not a chance. There's no way.
Mel Michael got the victory there.
You can't lie to me. Like, it's Mel Michael.
It is a time for the Crisp Communications wheel. ChrisComs.co. Get your free Brisbane Lions Fancast stickers. They're available through our website. Every player that's played 50 or more games is on the wheel, and there are some definite names on this wheel. Speaking of random names, I saw Aaron Cornelius at the Gabba last night.
That's a random name.
All right, let's give this wheel a spin. I can't recall whose turn it is, though.
I think you stuck with Possum, and then I overdid you with Mal Michael, because there's not a chance that I would have skipped on
Mal,
him, or
Okay. All right, well, that means it's your turn to pass or hold. Oh, beast mode.
I thought that was Michael Voss. I'll stick with Matho. He was my favourite player for a while.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to back him in based on ability, but there's definitely, enough to talk about with... and I've got Joe Danaher. Big Joe Danaher. And we spoke about him on the show last week, how there was some sort of weird links to coming back to Sydney. That has since been squashed by just about everyone else going, there's absolutely no chance.
Yeah, nah, I don't think so with that. Now, Matho, he's better than Darcy Parish. I know that sounds a little bit of a weird comparison to make, but if you look up their little draft photos of them in Geelong,
they were buds.
On boats, just having a bit of a sail around, or in the tinny. I for all money thought Matho would end up going back to Essendon, or going to Essendon to be with Parish, his little buddy, and then they got Setterfield or something instead, and it didn't really. Whatever. One of the great debut games. All of the high free kicks.
Yeah, did he bust out the shotgun on debut, or did that come after?
No. So the shotgun was against Geelong.
That's right.
No, it was against GWS. When they were about 80 points down. So good for him. And then I remember Joel Selwood really getting in his face about it, which is funny because Joel Selwood was Matho's favourite player as a kid. So it was very much a not meeting your heroes kind of example. He was. I think when he started to get really, really bulky, it was detrimental to his playing, because he was a bit nippy and he could kind of go forward and he could take marks and stuff. And then one preseason he came back and he was enormous. Yeah, and I don't think it really worked.
He looked taller as well.
Yeah, I don't think it suited very well because he was, kind of that in-under midfielder. And then it was sort of at that time where we didn't need him. We had Neil, we had Jared Lyon, and then obviously Dunkley came along and played a lot of twos, was really good in the twos, got like 1 billion touches. But I think his career is sort of one where you go, well, it could have been so much more if just a few things had kind of gone a different way, I reckon.
Yeah, and I remember it was 2021 when Neil missed a big chunk with, it was like that back or the shoulder or something, and Matho stepped in, and we did really well during that period, and it really showed what Matho could do, but he was just a victim of the midfield that it was just too hard to crack into. So,
well, it evolved past him,
Yeah, exactly what Dev Rob's doing now.
Yeah, and even then they've both gotten similarly gigantic, so... Don't know. Must be eating something weird in the twos. Talk about the clear winner.
I mean, Joe Danaher. If you want any confirmation of why this man should win this particular argument, just go back and watch the last 5 minutes of the semi-final against GWS last year. I mean, obviously a very enigmatic character, which I love that he's just always been his own person. Someone that can walk away from $1 million and go, yeah, that's enough for me, and just sail off into the sunset and go holiday in Europe. That says enough about anyone, really. Driving up from ocean shores to go to training, doesn't own a TV, just a genuine odd character, but a really lovely bloke as well, and highly gifted footballer, and that just didn't really... It's not that he didn't care, but it certainly wasn't the biggest thing in his life by a long shot. And I think every Lions fan just absolutely loves Joe Danaher for what he did for the club in his particularly his last month of football. But those finals in particular.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and a huge big game player.
Yeah. Well, it was watching that weird, like, where they were in the kind of the theater, watching the...
Yeah.
The knowledge of him having his own career on his boot and prolonging it yourself through your own willpower or ability or talent or whatever it's pretty good. Kind of poetic in a way. We did talk about it last week, but we were kind of both right. So he played 15 games in his previous 3 years and 4 in his year before. So he came to the Lions and then basically knocked it out of the park. It was one shoulder injury that dropped against Sydney down at the SCG, and that did it. That made quite a difference, I think. And I feel like that injury may have kind of made the decision for him for that following year, because if you're sitting there going a bit like Gardner, Gardner's got the frozen shoulders.
Yeah.
Where you go, well, one more and you probably might as well have a robot arm at this stage. And I think Joey probably didn't want to be messing with that going into fatherhood, and being able to do this quite good. If anyone wants to know, I'm gesturing, lifting my arm above my head. It's quite good. It's a good feeling. So yeah, he came back, obviously nailed it out of the park in 2023 and 2024. It has some interesting records, most behinds in the season. It's a good one.
That's right. I think that useless AFL stats page had him. He kicked a behind in every game or something like that, or he kicked a goal in every game and a behind in every game, something like that. He just kicked it. I mean, that was part of the charm, I guess, of Joe Danaher, is you never know where the ball's going once he's got a mark. 30 metres out directly in front, this could go anywhere. But then, 60 metres out on a heinous angle, on the wrong side for a left footer, you sort of back that in, 9 times out of 10. So, I mean, everyone will just look back very fondly on Joe Danaher's career. Essendon fans as well, neutral fans. I think just the amount of respect he would have.
Yeah, I thought you were going to keep going there. I was too busy looking at how many bombs. Very well. It's hard to find people who don't like him. I also find it funny that his losing of his teeth happened against us.
Yeah.
So that is quite a funny bit of sort of symmetry. 58 goals and 51 behinds last year. So I would be surprised if I kicked a couple of behinds in the grand final. So
He did.
2 goals.
He could have had an all-time game in the grand final. I think he 2 goals 4 or something in the end.
I think 2 went out of bounds as well.
Yeah.
Who cares?
But, probably our best on in the 23 grand final as well, him and Kitty Coleman. He was immense in that. Like I said, just a big game player. Anzac Day back when he played for Essendon. Easter Thursdays he would step up. Finals is where he really stood up. And I remember that 22 final against Melbourne where he was the late withdrawal because we'd already lost Oscar, and then the night before or the day of or the morning of, it's like, oh, Joe Danaher's not going to be there either. Oh, we're doomed because we'd just been belted by Melbourne by 10 goals 2 weeks earlier. And then in comes old mate Tommy Fullerton, and, we all remember that one as well, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Well, the week before, Danaher sliming one out the back against Richmond was a game winner there. So lovely. Well, really? I think he wins. Thoughts on umpire contact?
Yeah, it's been a big one this week, isn't it? I was very surprised to see Gold Coast basically flat out ignore it, considering that Matthew Rowler's on the precipice of copping a bloody suspension here. And I don't know if that's by design to take a stand. But yeah, I think if you're deliberately manipulating your position or you're pushing someone into an umpire to, gain space or something, then sure. But there's going to be a lot of incidental contact, like standing on a foot or, an ankle or something. That's going to happen, and it's not. I don't know. There just needs to be a bit of common sense.
The one against that Dunkley did where he was running and the guy backed over his ankles. It's like, no one's trying to... Did you hear what Brad Scott said?
No.
So he kind of... now, I might be slightly wrong. Didn't quite get my sources entirely fully read, but the kind of... What I took out of it was when he was head of footy, he was trying to get the umpires to move out of the corridor the whole time he was there.
Yeah.
And they just would not do it. And Steve McBurney said something along the lines of, like, just treat us like we're invisible. And it's like, well, we can't. So move. Like, get out of the corridor.
Yeah.
I don't understand why, if you've got an extra umpire, you can't have that person have 2 umpires either side of the center bounce or whatever, and then have the guy exit forward so he can see where he's going. I don't get it. Why do they need to back out? Go forward. Like, take control of your own safety here. It would lead to a pretty funny thing where I think, and the bounce would need to go for this to work, I think.
Yeah.
So if you threw the ball up, ran forward,
that would look funny.
I know. And I was thinking about it going, well, if it's on the you'd need them to be facing away so it doesn't look like they're like Terminator charging towards the screen at you. Like, but it would be kind of funny that they're fleeing the scene. But you have the 4th umpire in there to take care of it. So you've got all of the bits at your disposal. But the Nate Caddy one was stupid because Nate Caddy's running in to try and impact the game in the forward 50. And the umpire literally just runs 2 steps across his path and stops. Like, he stopped, ran 2 steps, stopped, and then like Caddy's like looking and just fucking cleans him up. And Caddy got hurt more than the umpire.
Yeah.
So
I just think there needs to be obviously common sense of like, oh, that was clearly an accident. And
dude, it's umpires. There's no common sense.
Yeah.
There's no common sense. I know I got lambasted the other week for suggesting that there might be a bit of soft protest going in terms of the quality of the umpires. But it's like they're in a position where they're not being made full time, so they're not getting paid as much as they probably want. And they get targeted all the time from fans, from media for not being very good. Coaches, players don't know what's going on, and you've got shit like this where it's They're running into people. They're getting hurt more. Hit the gym, guys, possibly. Like, I don't know.
What about goal umpires that, get flattened in packs on the goal line? Like,
yeah, but I will ask you, okay, yes, I agree, but David Roden, he's never going to struggle with that.
No, true.
Because he knows the standards that need to be like, well, I'm not going to die. So, and I like that guy with the mustache, but do some bicep curls. But
yeah, mustache man, especially when he's doing a day game and he's got the servo sunnies on as well. Loves it. It's so good.
Yeah. Anyway, but I think that it's two-pronged. The umpires could be looked after far better as a collective by the AFL, but I also think they themselves can look after themselves better.
Yeah.
So
it'd be interesting to see if there is any suspensions by the end of the week, at the end of the year.
Well, the other thing that was funny is that this thing has come out, and you probably watched Footy Classified last week, but there's sort of no one in control of the AFL right at the moment, or the footy at the AFL right at the moment, because Laura Kane got demoted, Swanee's not in yet, the other guy's on holiday. So, like, who came up with this?
Yeah, true.
So it's almost like, whose idea was this? What? I don't know, baffling.
It'll be an interesting watch, especially with the Suns, because they were taking the piss a bit yesterday. Like,
Can you imagine round 25 plus,
yeah.
Suns versus Essendon, Rail gets done?
Oof.
I can see Gold Coast not making finals.
Well, one of those teams is going to miss out.
Yeah,
Freo,
there's nine.
Giants, Gold
There's
Coast.
9. Like,
yeah.
And I can see it being the Suns.
Yeah, I could probably make a case for a lot of the teams. There's so many teams right now on 40 points. Adelaide have got an opportunity here to go a game clear of that pack if they can pull their finger out against Melbourne, who are currently up by 6 goals. Or 5 goals.
Melbourne are winning?
Yeah, crazy.
Oh, and Sydney won.
Yeah, Sydney won. So they've got the opportunity there to get a bit of a buffer on that group. But yeah, one of them's going to miss out. That extra game might help the Suns in the end. GWS is going to have to make a real push. Freo, king of flaky football, could, bottle it at the end of the year again. So it's just there's such a distinctive top 9 and bottom 9. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty good, got to say. Not really doing much for those, the whole wild card stuff. Like, oh yeah, cool. Let's have 9th to 12th playoff. Old 6-win Carlton. Not a chance. Well, I think that's probably all we need to talk about, eh?
I reckon, because as I said, there's more footy just a couple of days away, which is something to look forward to. Thursday night against the hapless Blues, who, I don't know, I'm scared. They pulled out a random win against the Cats. Who knows?
Yeah, but that was sort of a different thing entirely.
Yeah.
The thing is, everyone is saying that every game we're in is a... So...
Well, after this...
They can't all be a banana skin game.
After this, we've got some pretty tough games. The Suns, Collingwood, and... Doggies are in there, so... Yeah.
Well, you know what I said last week? Bring it on. I watch football to watch good games, so I'm excited more about that than about this week.
Fair enough.
Which means I would still want to kill this week,
Yeah, definitely. We've just...
I do. Conversely, I do like absolutely stomping on, if you're playing video games with like a child in Mario Kart, beat him by a whole lap or something like that. Like,
it would be nice to get one of those, because we haven't had one this year. But who knows? We've just, I don't know. The main knock on like teams like the Bulldogs and Adelaide is like, yeah, they're beating up on the little blokes, but when it comes to playing other top 8 teams, they're not producing. Whereas I think, we're playing our best footy against the best teams. So at least you can say that about us, and it'll make that 3-4 week period pretty interesting, I think.
It's going to be glorious.
That game against Collingwood at the MCG is going to be a real watch, I think.
Yeah, I think there could be an element of, that game could hinge quite heavily on us finishing top 2. So it's probably more important for us than it is for Collingwood. Collingwood are looking a bit too like 23, where they were kind of just pottering along. They haven't had a lull. And the longer before they have a lull, the more hope I get. Just because if they haven't, you can't go the whole season without a lull. It's impossible.
They're doing it right so far.
Yeah, but you look at every season ever, it never happened. Except for that Essendon one, but even then they lost one game, whatever. So, I don't know. Teams always have a lull.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's around the same time we play them.
No, hopefully it's in the finals.
Yeah, okay. Even better.
Because if they have a lull when we play them, then they'll be back for finals. It's the same way it was in 20... You don't learn anything from history in 2023, Brooksy. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Like, we had a lull last year, just before finals. One that we disagreed on. You were advocating for. I was panicking.
I do recall. All right, let's pack it in, and we'll be back next week to review the Carlton game.
Beautiful.